Recording in progress. We are back at Zoom, back at our roots. It is, I don't know, the first 100, 150, I don't know, Sox Populi, Southside, whatever's been called over the years. Well, this is Sox Populi podcast 197, and we are at Zoom. No cute logos, no fancy tricks, no graphics, no news ticker, no production value here whatsoever. This is just straight on word from the experts and me. I'm Brett Ballantini, the non-expert among our group here, although all four of us here did submit our season predictions, and that's what we're going to be addressing now. It is Melissa Sage-Bollenbach, Hannah Filippo on her way to Florida. Oh, she's so excited about that. In Florida, now of all times. No politics. And Joe Kiang-Resis. Did I get that close to right, Joe?
Oh yeah, that was exactly
All
right.
right. I'll try to remember that. And on the fly, Joe has adjusted his nameplate here in Zoom. Glad we could goad you to do that, Joe. Although, I mean, maybe nobody uses Zoom anymore. I don't know. I'm
Now
not.
I'm not the only hyphenated person.
That's
Joe joined me.
true.
Yes, there we
That's
go.
true. Yes, I was telling Joe that Anacleto Ballantini would just be too much of a mouthful, although we did consider it. We did consider it. And you know what? If she had an even better family, there may be no Ballantini. Anyway, that's a whole different podcast. Let's talk about predictions because time's a wasting. It's Zoom, limited time. We did predictions. My three experts somehow finished behind. I'm sure it's just an accounting error. And I'm sure I put my thumb on the scale to somehow come out ahead. I did not win this year. Our first two-time, he didn't even show up to gloat. Our first two-time predictions winner is Luke Smales. Brett Ballantini, your host, finished second. And these three finished somewhere after that. Joe, you've won one year, didn't you?
I
It's like you
don't think
should
I've come
commit it
in.
to memory.
I don't think I've come in first. I've been in like the top three a couple of times. I don't think
Okay.
I've gotten first though.
All right. And Melissa, you are like sort of you're chronically middle of the pack. I think at this point you're what, two threes in a row, basically in the middle.
Yes,
Yeah, all right.
exactly.
You're just
So
comfortable. You like to
it's me.
draft.
I'm super predictable, being predictable.
And Hannah, I gotta say, you're probably the best at this of the four of us and most MLB aware. So I'm not really sure what happened, but it's your first time out. You know,
Couple rookie mistakes.
some rookie mistakes. Well, we'll talk about those. All right. We're obviously not going to have time to really go into detail on every area here on this grid. Um, I'll maybe summarize and then we'll get into chatting about each of our little sections here in the predictions. Melissa, kudos to you. Um, you're the only one to pick the Yankees to win the division. We did really badly as a writing group, as a site, picking the AL East specifically, but you had the faith to pick the Yankees. Technically, sort of tied for first, tiebreaker, whatever. Weren't a first place team, but something about them, or are you just a turncoat, a double agent,
No, it really
Yankees
did. It
fan?
was painful for me to do it because I did want to pick the Red Sox because I like the Red Sox better, especially with Kershaw.
Mhm.
But I was just like, I mean, they have Judge. I
Mhm.
mean, when you have Judge on the Yankees, you have Ohtani on the Dodgers. Like, how do you not
Yeah,
pick the Yankees and the
yeah,
Dodgers? I mean, the two best players,
yeah.
arguably in the game right now, and two of the best players, arguably, probably, in all of baseball, like ever. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's pretty much why I went with the Yankees because of Judge.
Yeah.
So.
We'll skip to the NL Central, and boy, I don't know if do we even do a podcast for we probably did. And Joe, did I call you on the carpet for what this ridiculous division pick was of the Cubs?
I'm pretty sure.
I mean, you realize
Yes.
you go into the penalty box when that happens.
Yes. Oh
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All
For
right.
a while, it was looking
No,
like a
it
pretty good
was.
pick. Pete Crow Armstrong looked like he could even beat out Ohtani for the MVP for a little while
Was
there,
it
but
wasn't
yeah, they cooled
wasn't
off
that
a bit.
weird? Like the first month of the season, it's like, oh well, they're finally doing what they're supposed to do. Okay, let's see how the how the division uh plays out. But for once it seemed like, oh, okay, yeah, finally they're going to live up to it, and naturally they couldn't. But uh,
They
Dante
did Cub things.
Dante
They did Cub things at the end.
Brewers
Dante out of
acquired a red hot Andrew Vaughn.
oh well,
That
that's
was
yeah,
all they
exactly.
needed.
How can you fight that? And congratulations to us all for having the foresight, taking the risk to pick the Dodgers to win the NL West. Rarely have we seen a unanimous, because there's always iconoclasts and weirdos, right? Sometimes people pick the Cubs to win a division. But yeah, here everybody picked the Dodgers, and guess what? We were right. Although again, that hung in the balance for a little bit. They didn't coast. And the NL wildcards in particular to me jumped out. We did a really poor job of picking the wildcards. And it is fairly rare for of three teams you get to pick, not getting any. And I'm not really looking at anybody in particular in this group doing that, but yeah, Hannah, that didn't help your cause picking Arizona, the Mets, and Atlanta. Again, in
Atlanta
theory,
stung. I don't think
yeah.
anyone expected Atlanta to
Yeah.
perform how they did.
Yeah.
Mets choked themselves away so
Yeah.
hard at the end, and Arizona almost made a comeback actually,
Yeah,
even
they
though they
did.
sold
They were
at the
right there.
deadline.
They
Yeah.
did, yeah, right to the end.
I think in a few minutes we're going to be calling someone out on the carpet about an Atlanta pick, but we'll just keep everyone in suspense there. I'm going to throw it to the field here just to talk about, did a team to any of you stand out as a particularly great, not great, or just a surprise, good or bad, National League, American League? What team stood out to you, better or worse, as a surprise of the year?
I just the past 2 years, how the Rangers have just
Yeah,
just fallen off to me. Like, I mean, they were just so good and just clicking, and then it very boy, we know how that goes. It very quickly just, I mean, didn't go as south as we have, but it very quickly just kind of died away. So to me, I don't know, it's kind of a strange situation there.
I think I was surprised to see the Mariners actually pull it off.
Mm.
They've fallen short quite a
Yeah,
bit
another team
for
we're
the
waiting to,
division.
yeah.
And even though they acquired two big names at the deadline, I was still expecting them to fall off at some point, but I was very happy to see that they pulled it off.
Yeah, those both definitely surprised me. I'll add in Toronto winning 94 and then becoming just a couple of outs away from winning the World Series. I didn't see that coming from them at all.
And none of us did. We
Mhm.
completely whiffed. I mean, understandably, completely whiffed on Toronto. Not a single person even had them as a wild card pick. And I know that's been the case in the past. So something strange about that too. My pick will be the Chicago White Sox. How in the world did they only lose 100 games? What kept me, I mean, Luke killed us this year, but what kept me from even making it close and maybe winning is the fact that I was so down on the White Sox as to pick them for somewhere around 120 losses, and that turned out to be enough of a whiff to really kill me. It's a silly pick because they're still a terrible team, the worst in the American League, but go figure, the White Sox made themselves a short list surprise team by only losing 100 games. White Sox. Maybe this will be a podcast where we don't actually pick. I'm not going to force everybody to pick how the White Sox will do next year. Maybe this is one we actually skip. I should say, customarily, this has been maybe the first podcast of our Sox of Us. Last year, for reasons that you might understand, somehow having to do with 120 losses, probably 121 losses. We just decided to skip the whole Soxivus thing. I guess we're sort of doing that this year because, of course, Father Soxivus is Tommy Barbie. He's not really with us anymore. I guess until he comes back, maybe out of respect to Tommy, maybe we'll just put that in the closet till he comes back. We'll see if they start winning first. If they start winning, if Tommy will come back to us. I don't know. Tommy, we miss you. At any rate, yes, we'll still air grievances all off season. I'm sure of that. We'll probably air some grievances in this podcast as well. It's sort of part of being a Sox fan now, which is sickening, gross, and disgusting. But we're all familiar with it. Even you younger White Sox fans, you're familiar enough with it. In fact, you younger White Sox fans is practically all you know. I'm so sorry. One day maybe they'll be on top again, or maybe they'll be relegated out of the league. Next section of our predictions sort of involves best, worst. And well, let's just skip right to Joe because you do have to. I mean, listen, picking the Braves to go all the way. It's not crazy year after year in theory. It was really injuries that killed this team. Do you think this team healthy would have still been what you thought it was, or was there another team in the National League, Dodgers or whatever, or that sort of dogfight division that still would have undermined your prediction as you saw how the season played out?
Yeah, I don't think injuries tell the full story. Like that's is certainly part of the reason why they underachieved expectations so much. But yeah, I think more so they were just a very disappointing team. And yeah, the main rationale that I was thinking of was I went with all of the regular, favorites for the MVPs and the Cy Youngs. I'm like, I can't pick the favorite for the World Series as well. Like I just can't do it, especially like back-to-back World Series that hadn't happened in so long until this year.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm like, it's just going to be way too boring if I just pick the Dodgers. So let's just pick one of the next best teams on paper that's,
Yeah.
scheduled to
Yeah.
or projected to finish like with the fifth or so best record in Major League Baseball. And, maybe they'll surprise some teams and beat the Dodgers in the playoffs. But yeah, definitely a disappointing season for them. And yeah, that one hurt for sure.
The same thing, like, okay, yeah, Shohei Ohtani will win the MVP again. And I know I've gone against that at least once. I think I learned this year. I said, just go with the favorite on this one. Yeah, don't be silly. Hannah, on the other hand, you caught Orioles fever, and many of us had it. I think my MVP pick was from the Orioles, and I don't think they had anyone near MVP level. No one could have necessarily foreseen this. At what point in the season did you say, uh-oh, I don't think they're going to be the best team in the American League?
It was pretty early on. I would say like probably end of April, early May was
Yeah.
really clear that they were done.
Yeah. What a sad, and the fact that you're even being compared, like people are saying, oh, you didn't go for it. You just relied on homegrown or whatever. What are you trying to be? The White Sox? I mean, just the fact that they're being compared, squandering their window, squandering their young talent by not going out on the market and making some moves, that might hurt the most. I mean, they didn't finish in last place, so they avoided that, but
I mean, they
compared to the
went from
White Sox.
91, I forgot how many wins they had this year, but they went from like 90 plus wins last year to this. So I would like to think it's a fluke, just like how Toronto was terrible last year and were mediocre. They had such an improvement this year. So I'd like to think it's just a fluke.
Yeah. You weren't alone, Hannah. Dante Jones and Brian O'Neill also had Orioles fever. I think until I started talking to you more, Hannah, and getting maybe a little bit of Red Sox info, I think my pick was originally the Orioles, and then I don't know, I panicked. Everybody was sort of hot on the Red Sox, so I thought, yeah, okay, let's go Red Sox. Didn't turn out to be a great pick either, but not quite as painful as riding with the Orioles. I guess it's worth mentioning that Brian not only flubbed on the Orioles, wonder why he's not here on this podcast, but sort of did on the A's as well. White Sox easy pick there. That was easy points. And both Brian and Delia decided to pick on the A's, who actually look like a team that sort of could be going places. And I don't mean Las Vegas, Sacramento, or wherever, Winnipeg. But actually going places on the field. I'm not sure we can say that about the White Sox yet, but this will be the podcast we don't make predictions about next year. We'll start grinding our axe for the White Sox in another podcast or two. Again, same thing. Something particularly surprising or not surprising about how the season played out. Dodgers, okay, that's definitely not surprising, but something in how things wrangled out beyond the Braves and the Orioles spitting the bit there. Something else stand out as a surprise?
Well, you had Ryan there who had the Marlins picking them to do, really badly. And they actually did pretty good
Yeah.
Towards the end of the season. They got in a little bit of a hot streak and looked like they were kind of maybe even going to be competitive there at the end. So that, I mean, that was surprising, especially with how they dismantled. I mean,
Yeah.
after Kim left and everything, it seemed like they were completely going in a different direction. So that kind of surprised me that they came out of nowhere
Yeah.
a little bit.
It's worth pointing out Ryan had the strangest predictions of any of us because they ran out to a lead through even this round, picking the Marlins, uh, and then turned around so badly as to not just fall out of first, but actually fall into last place, which is, I mean, that's sort of a feat. That is hot and cold. So again, Ryan's sort of not around with us anymore, but tip of the cap there for the hot start. If only it could have stopped after 2 rounds, they would have been the champion for this year. Joe, Hannah, aside from your shame for riding the Brewers and the Orioles, anything else sort of stand out as weird or surprising how maybe the playoffs played out?
It's actually kind of surprised the Reds snuck in. And it
Yeah,
was really, a large part was thanks to the Mets collapsing, but seeing the Mets towards the end there
yeah.
get hot, I was really actually cheering for them for a bit. They did not make it easy. They had a bit of a streakiness in September, but it was fun, and it just goes to show that Terry Francona is a great manager too in that clubhouse with them. And even though they didn't make a ton of moves at the deadline, they made just enough to get them where they need to go.
Yeah.
For sure. I'll add the Tigers blowing a massive division lead and a 99.9% chance of winning the division at one point. I mean, yeah, they did turn around and beat Cleveland despite not having home
Yeah.
field advantage. So I mean, they did kind of
Yeah.
sort of rectify it in the end, but that was a collapse of epic proportions down the stretch of the regular
They were the
season.
best team in the majors like mid-season, right? I mean, they were, I
Yeah.
mean, they were just like backing in. And I have no rancor toward the Tigers, although Tigers fans seem to hate us. But yeah, you sort of gotta love, especially when bad history isn't ours, and the 2020s, that's sort of tough. So the idea that yeah, they made their mark. Go Bengals. All right. I don't know. We're about halfway through. So we'll take a break. I think we're still doing breaks. Zoom. I'm freaked out. I didn't even see myself on the screen until 10 minutes into this podcast. Maybe none of you watching this recording on YouTube saw me until 10 minutes ago. Oh, I'm here. The expert shows up. We'll take a break, a minute or so, we'll come back. Like Walmart's gonna sell you something, or wow, I'm giving them free pub. But I was sort of surprised. Some of our commercials are legit. State Farm. I mean, I got no affinity for State Farm, even though that was my father's family business. That would be particular affinity for my father either. Hey, let's take a break before I get in more trouble and start talking politics. We'll be back in a minute or so, something like that. We'll talk about the rest of our predictions, talk about the White Sox, talk about accounting. We'll talk about something. Hang with us. Hey there, everybody. We're on Zoom. Sox Populi 197. I'm here with my best friends in the whole wide world. It's Joe Kiang-Resis. It is Hannah Filippo. I'm going to get it wrong at some point, Joe, or if I'm not already getting it wrong. And Melissa Sage-Bollenbach, the other hyphenated among our quartet here. Welcome all, the so-called experts. Wow, look at me dissing my guests. Well, somehow I did better in the predictions this year. I've been hot lately. I'm no good at this. I've been hot lately. I'm bad at this. Thank God I'm not a betting man. And guess what? That probably wasn't a commercial you just heard. Wow. Man, if we can just go like State Farm, Walmart, McDonald's, and not FanDuel, whatever all that crap is. Sorry, listen. I know it's the world we live in. That's a whole nother podcast as well. Let's get back to the predictions before someone puts a hit on me. Okay, we are now at the MLB Awards section. And listen, as long as I'm Corona by myself, I don't know. I don't know anything about predicting, and I definitely don't know young players. And yet somehow I nailed Drake Baldwin. I must have I copied off of somebody. I don't know. I nailed Drake Baldwin, the better Baldwin apparently. Why don't we have Drake Baldwin? Sorry, Brooks. Drake and Brooks, very 21st century names. And Roman Anthony, who I believe was a third place finisher. I don't know, finished close to the top. I don't know how I did that. I'm going to just stop talking about myself. It's tiresome. Joe Reeses, though Melissa saw the Yankees being a pretty good team, you somehow, how is it that we had 12, 13 people picking, 13 people picking, 12 people picking, and you're the only one who saw Aaron Judge as the MVP of the league? How, why? I guess you're not the one to ask, but how, did you think it was weird that you were the only one before the season picking Aaron Judge as the MVP?
Yeah, I did think it was a little strange. I mean, I get why, a lot of times people don't they have the same logic as me, maybe not picking the Dodgers to win the World Series just
Sure.
for the sake of I don't want to pick a favorite. And I guess just a lot of people had that feeling for the AL MVP this year. Yeah, I will take it that I mean helped me a little bit in the rankings there. But
Got you scraping back. You started out
yeah,
slow.
that was a fun race to follow down the stretch between Judge and Raleigh. And I mean, they were both very, very deserving in my opinion. I would not have been at all upset if they had given it to Raleigh. Personally, I do think it was slightly the better call to give it to Judge though. Which even with Raleigh's home run total, like Judge, and the fact that he plays catcher, Judge had you know was a little bit more valuable. Even considering that. But I mean, I did think that the voters would give it to Raleigh just
Yeah.
because he's hasn't won it before, and he's a switch hitting catcher who just hit 60 home runs in the regular season. I thought that that would be unique enough to where he would get the votes, but yeah, that was a very exciting race there down the stretch, and yeah, bravo to Judge on yet another amazing season.
I feel exactly the same way as you, Joe. So take that as the insult it is. But yeah, I thought exactly the same. Judge earned it and Raleigh was going to get it. I apparently we both overestimated um, the fatigue, Yankee fatigue. I know New York media has a dominant voice, but I don't think that really particularly matters. Oh my God, wait, we only have 10 more minutes in this podcast? This is ridiculous. Come on, Zoom. We're giving you some love. 10 more minutes. Okay, well, let's start moving on this. Melissa, Hannah, how do you think the MVP did the MVP race shake out the right way in the AL in your minds in terms of what you thought and what actually happened?
I'm right with what you guys thought. I just figured that there was a little bit like even though you would think that that same logic would have to go to the Shohei Ohtani like fatigue too, but then again, he is such a unique person, player doing both the pitching and the hitting side. So like you would if you were going to vote so I should have since I went with Shohei, I should have went with Judge, but I was like, oh, come on. There's going to be somebody else who's going to come forward and Bobby Witt had looked like a good candidate
Yeah, it was a
based
good
on
pick. It was a good
yeah,
pick.
what he had done the previous year and stuff. So but I would have liked to see Cal win it just because I think down the stretch he was more valuable to his team. And then once his team got, toward in the playoffs, because Judge is not good in the playoffs, but I know you don't count what people do in the
Yeah,
playoffs
yeah.
in the MVP voting. So which is kind of strange, but whatever.
Where do you fall on it, Hannah?
Yeah, I hate to admit that Judge probably had a bigger, more influence, more
Yeah,
support for the Yankees, but at the same time, I would have, of course, loved to have seen Valley get.
yeah. Um, yeah, awards, nothing really jumps out at me too much. The show, it is a little odd that we all were pretty much all were on the Shohei train for the MVP. Although coming off of that year, you really got to account for yourself if you're not picking him to go back to back. It's strange that the AL MVP was so fractured. Also strange that someone named Gunnar Henderson got 2 picks among our 12 voters. Somebody here might have done that, but let's move on to the next section because we don't want to get bogged down. This is more White Sox specific. Uh, the three of us did not come within 15 wins or losses, however you want to look at it, and thereby got 0 points. Hats off to Delia Ritchie. Didn't maybe have the strongest predictions season, but did actually somehow hit. Hope Springs Eternal hit the 60 win prediction for the season. So kudos there. Um, Me and Hannah, I don't even like Miguel Vargas. Did we just pick Miguel Vargas as the best player on the White Sox this year because there wasn't anyone else?
I'm trying to remember what my logic was. It was probably because I couldn't see anybody else
Yeah,
being the best player, and it was hard for me to expect any rookie to
yeah,
outperform them. So that was
yeah,
probably just a default answer.
yeah. Melissa, I'm going to take credit among three of us for having the foresight to see Andrew Vaughn as the worst player on the White Sox this
Yes.
year. But please explain yourself as to how Andrew Vaughn was going to be the best player this year.
So I think I should get like at least a half a point because he was like the MVP for the Brewers. So does that not count?
Yeah, it really should. Technically, yeah, you should move up a little bit. That's
I think
true.
I should have got to have a point for that. I think I was just so pulling for the kid. Like,
Yeah,
come on. Like, it's your time to just take it, from like everything. Like, he was the one who was like doing so much in the community, and he was,
yeah,
our first round pick. And like, he finally like had first base all to himself. Like, no, even Gavin Sheets in the mix.
yeah,
So I was like, come on, dude. Like, you can do
yeah,
it. And, I wasn't wrong. He could
yeah,
do it, just not
yeah.
for us.
Yeah, you look at the guy and he's like a short first baseman and he hasn't done too well. It's like, should we send him back to left field again? Because he seemed to play somehow better out there. You do want to root for him. And another thing is, I think my thinking with Vargas is that's a player that Getz would be sure, barring injury, that he was going to get a ton of run out there, just like to prove him right about a trade or something. And I think that theory could go for Andrew Vaughn as well. Like they're going to play him if he's on the
Agreed.
roster, they're going to play him. So with the way we are looking into going into this season, it's like who else is going to get that much run? I taunted. He's not here. How am I taunting him? Brian O'Neill for some odd picks for worst in each league. So credit has to be given, although I'm not sure you can really give credit for picking Colson Montgomery as the best rookie, given where he started and given where into the season he was at. That was a nice miracle. That was an awesome Hail Mary pick for Brian, picking Colson Montgomery. The rest of us reasonable folks picked like Shane Smith or Kyle Teal. But yeah, hey, he went for it. Bold. If he was on that preseason podcast, and he was hot on a few for a while, so he might have been on that one. I'm sure he got chided, but it's only fair to mention, Melissa, that Delia and Nello Rubio also joined you in. Oh wait, I'm sorry. No, I'll take. I can't even read my own grid here.
Yeah.
Joined me in picking Andrew Vaughn as the worst player. Andrew Vaughn haters that we are. Um, Luke Smales, again, icing his victory, somehow had the foresight to pick Bryce Wilson. You wouldn't even be able to pick like which Wilson is he as the worst pitcher. He did turn out to be the worst pitcher for the White Sox this year by WAR. Hamster did not have a very good run this year. I think after tying for first last year, but she did have Jonathan Cannon as worst pitcher, and that came awfully darn close. Joe, please do explain Jonathan Cannon as your pitcher MVP pick this year. Not to end on a bad note with you, but it just
Sure.
sort of came
All
up that
good.
way.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief because I know we're got some limited time here.
Thanks, dude.
Basically, to me, all of the starting pitchers, looking at them entering the season, they all seemed pretty similar to me. Like there were no runaway favorites, and Cannon won some sweetheart points for me for ending the 21 game losing streak in
Sure.
2024. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess I'm giving this to Cannon. Sure, he looked, yeah, like I'll give him credit. That was a happy memory, and I'll give him some love for it.
Let me go. This is not even on the board because we didn't have a category, though in retrospect should have. And the way I picked the White Sox to lose, we should have had a who's going to be the new worst team ever in baseball in 2025 because the Rockies made a run at it. I recall, I want to say Hannah and Melissa, you might have been on this podcast with me in season, Joe, maybe you were too, where I did say, will the Rockies break the record? And I want to say, I don't want to misrepresent here as I'm just blowing the last of our time, that Melissa and Hannah, you were pretty strongly in favor of that they were going to break the record. I think in that podcast, I was the holdout and said, no, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, I did.
Were you surprised that they, I mean, they didn't exactly catch fire, but they
Yeah, I was surprised because it's not like they had some really hot rookies coming up or, like we did. I mean, it kind of made sense that we got a little better because we did have so many of our like top young guys coming up. So I was really surprised that they were able to dig themselves out of it. Maybe it was their interim managerial switch. I don't know what it was, but they had enough. Maybe it was just sheer motivation to not
yeah,
have that hang over
they
them. I mean, because Lord knows we don't want it either.
yeah,
That's why I always wanted to pass it off to
yeah,
somebody. I didn't
they
want it anymore because that is the first
yeah,
thing anybody ever says to me when I talk and I'm like, oh, I do this or whatever, and they're like, oh, you poor thing,
yeah.
and I just kind
Isn't
of
that a
get
great way to be a White Sox fan now, Melissa? Speaking as
yeah,
older fans, isn't it wonderful that that's something that's going to come up? It's
yep.
like Al Capone is back to being the thing people ask about in Chicago, and everybody forgot about Michael Jordan. Did I mischaracterize you, Hannah, in saying that you
No,
thought, no, you
sadly.
did?
I
Okay, you're going
thought,
to fall on the sword too? All right.
yeah, I will.
Okay. Well, on that note, I guess we'll wrap up this podcast. We will have more to come. It won't necessarily be Soxivus. We're actually going to do, I think we're going to do a Rule 5 draft podcast. Hannah's got a piece coming up on Southside Sox pretty much as we record, talking about the White Sox, three players the White Sox really do need to protect. There are some names out there. I don't know if we'll do it after the draft or after we know the picks, which is going to that's going to be known right after Hannah's piece comes out as well. But we'll do that soon. We'll have other podcasts. I'll try to deal with Zoom and understand it again. I hope this doesn't run out on me. Okay, we're going to go away now. I'm going to stop the recording. Thanks for being part of podcast 197.